Fridays in football, although it's not Friday and it's not football season. But it must be because I see Urban Meyer here. We're so glad to have Coach Meyer back on the program, and I know he's having a pretty good summer, and he's about to break camp and go start doing football stuff. Urban, how you doing? How's your summer going? And what kind of big plans do you have for the 4th of July?
Well, happy 4th of July. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I grew up in a military family with my father, Army, sister, Air Force, and I'm on 2 foundation boards that support our veterans. And I can't get enough. Every part of our program over the years, buddy, had some kind of military influence. I just, I love our country, but I'm finding as I get so involved with the veterans, I love the veterans even more. I mean, uh, the ultimate show of commitment, dedication, unselfish. It's incredible, and we're just blessed to live in this great country.
Yes, we are. And my hat's off to them as well. And thank you for their service and also for your family that served so well. I know your family a little bit. I was thinking today, it's been, say, 2007, by my math, which is not good. That's 18 years ago. We did a book called Urban's Way.
Wow.
And I talked to 50 people that you gave me to talk to, and among them were your family, which is wonderful. You have quite a family, and they're academics, and they're committed. They're very loyal Americans, and I know you're very proud of them. Speaking of family, catch us up on your son. He's out. He's working. Tell us what he's doing.
Yeah, Nate went to Cincinnati and played actually college baseball and football. Then was hired as a graduate assistant by Luke Fickle at Cincinnati. He did that for a year, and then he made a decision to get in the business world. So within a 12-month period, he got a wife, a child, a house, a dog, and a job. And it was a big year for him. So he's doing great. He's learning the business world, and I love watching. He's a great kid. He's always been, that he's been a
Yes.
straight A student and just a great young man.
Yeah, we're very lucky in that regard. I'm proud of my son, Brenden. We've been working together for 20 years on this stuff, and he went through this whole thing with you, as did I. And I can't wait to get to the heart of the story today because I was so impressed with the triple option show that you did on your podcast. And I want to get into that in just a second
It's a good
about
podcast, by the way,
a
coach.
Oh,
really good
thanks.
Yeah,
podcast.
it's good
And
stuff.
and how you were so touched by what happened with Billy Donovan and how it inspired you. And it's particularly relevant in our program because I have a constant conversation about this. And Spurrier doesn't agree with me, Coach Spurrier, and Shane Matthews doesn't. And I keep saying it's about the winning culture. It seems like the rising tide raises all ships, and they say, well, it's about having coaches and players. Yes, it is. But the culture is impacted by winning. Matter of fact, now that we're on that subject, you were so eloquent in what you said at your podcast about talk about that time you got the message from somebody in Billy's camp to come down to the locker room after the national championship game and how that impacted you.
Yeah, it changed my life. Billy Donovan invited me up to Indianapolis, and they're playing UCLA for the national title. Billy, of course, is a dear friend and neighbor, and I wasn't going to go, and then because we had spring practice that day, and Jeremy and I remember even Brandon Salary. So you get the hell out of here, go. I've never done that, and so I got on a plane. We flew up to Indianapolis, went to dinner, and then I remember going to the stadium and so many Gator fans, of course, and UCLA fans, and I walk and there was about a minute left, and Florida's going to win. And I get a text message from his operations guy. Said, Coach Donovan wants you in the locker room. And I mean, think about that. He's getting ready to. So of course, I remember walking. I asked the security guy to help me get me down to the locker room. I'm standing there. I watch the clock hit 0, and I tear up. I see the white ropes go up and the team celebrating. I'm in there in the locker room, kind of in the back, and they come storming in. Horford and Joe Kim Noah, Brewer, and that crew. And I cried with them. I mean, to see that celebration, and I was convinced, and I still do this once in a while. I go talk to teams. I'm convinced if you ever took a team into that locker room, experienced what I experienced, all your selfishness, all your, whatever college kids do and all this stuff, you just put it away for 5 months. Just for 5 months, just be the best teammate, the best version of you can be. Because if you have any chance to do what I witnessed, which we were fortunate to do a few times, it changes your life.
Urban, it's so hard. I'm sorry, Brendan. Just let me
Uh,
get this done, and you
yeah.
go right after that. I just want to say it's so important. It seems like to enjoy the ride anymore. There's so much pressure on coaches and players, NIL, money, whatever. It's a business now. I saw you at your best and your worst, but your best being that I remember sitting with you in the stands one day after practice, looking out at the swamp, looking at, and you say, "Man, I get to go here to work every day at this place. What a great place this is." And you enjoyed that ride and you were as happy as you could possibly be. When you reach that moment of complete ecstasy and happiness, you think it's never going to end, don't you?
I do, and I tried. I was very unique, and I guess I wasn't, because I heard from so many other coaches, including Coach Donovan, that you work so hard for it and it happens, and you're like, wait, that's it? Everything's supposed to get easier now, and it actually gets a little more difficult. And the wear and tear, because I've always loved my family so much, the wear and tear on your health, on you're consumed. And I was an extremist. I was so consumed that, I had health issues, had mental health issues. I just got to the point where I was broken, where my body and my mind, I couldn't, other than the sleeping pill, buddy. And I know it's well documented. I don't want to regurgitate it, but
Yeah, it's all right.
other than the sleeping pill, I
Mm-hmm.
was recruiting. I was working. I never took a minute off, ever. I mean, we might go somewhere, but I'm never off. And I wish I had always admired the guys. I thought Bob Stoops and Mac Brown, they became so good friends that they had a way of at least being able to compartmentalize their job. I was unable to do that. I tried.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, you couldn't do it. And then I'll let Brendan ask this question, but the moment of truth was you just won the 2006 national championship. You're sitting there with your dad and a good friend, and you're thinking, "Boy, this is great. We won the national championship." Oops, I got to go recruit right then, didn't you?
Oh yeah, and never. Yeah, I mean, I remember I forced myself after the 14, the one at Ohio State, because I said I'm not going there again. '06, it became uh, an anchor around your neck. But '08 was the time that it really, and that was one of the greatest teams in college football history.
Mm-hmm.
And we came back and went 13-1 again the next year. But I mean, I didn't do a good job with that. I didn't let the players enjoy the run. I mean, if it wasn't perfection, I mean, I would restart practice all the time, and it became a drudgery. And it was a great team. We had a great run. I still have so many great relationships, and I'm proud of that players and those teams. But it wasn't the 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 magical ride that you thought it would be.
Urban Meyer, Triple Option Podcast. That's great. And Big Noon, I can't believe this is like the eighth or ninth year of Big Noon. Brendan, it's a
Yeah.
successful run, I'd say.
Yeah, I love Big Noon. I was just talking about how it's a different show because, Coach, we have so many podcasts we do on our network now, and it's really cool how you guys really capture, just a little bit of the vibe of what's, I think people, how they want to ingest it. I enjoy watching it. I just want to go back. You built obviously championship caliber cultures, multiple programs. I just wanted to ask you what was, I think I know, but what was one of the non-negotiable principles that you instilled in your teams to create like the winning culture? And how did you ensure that would stick?
Well, it's hard to do. I think that's why Nick Saban will go down as in our lifetime as the greatest, where um, he had so much transition of assistant coaches like I did, where they go on to be head coaches. He had transition, obviously, of great players, which we did, but they were more consistent, and that was hard. I mean, we won a lot of games at Ohio State. I think we won 11 games or 12 games every year, sometimes 13, 14. But it's just hard to sustain. We did a better job of that at Ohio State because I was a little more veteran of a coach, And it is culture to me. I would argue that, great players are a mandate, but great players come and go. Great coaches are a mandate, but great coaches come and go. The thing that you can sustain if the leader is strong enough is a great culture. And the non-negotiables with me were selflessness. If you remember, I had a rule that you had to play on two special teams before you could start. And I mean, you look nowadays, that's like a rule everybody looks and goes, really? You really did that? I said, yeah, of course. I mean, Zeke Elliott, you think of all the Lewis Murphys of the world. I mean, those guys, David Nelson is a perfect example. I want to go play receiver. I don't care what you want to do. You're not going to do that until you start on two special teams. And so I think that when you start talking about there's two components of championship football. Number one is the competitiveness of your team's got to be there and your staff and toughness, but that's the third one. But the other one is selflessness. Football is the ultimate measure of selflessness. I mean, I always give the example. You got to run down a kickoff at 22 miles an hour and hit something coming at you at 20 miles an hour. And most human beings will not say that's fun. That's not fun. However, it's a means to an end. It's called field position. So why do you do that? It's because you understand that your team is more important than you. And that's what those great teams always had, the selflessness piece. And I watch nowadays, whenever I speak and I see teams win, sure, it's great players. Absolutely, that's number one, and great coaches. But selflessness is a quality that is consistent with championship teams.
I never get tired of that story about David. After you lose that painful, and sometimes it takes a painful loss to change things, that painful game, the Tim Tebow game, he wants to get on the field. And he comes to you and says, Coach, David Nelson says, I want to play. How do I do it? And you say, you got to go to special teams, something he did not want to do. And talk about what happened.
Yeah, it was at 7 a.m. the next morning after we lost Ole Miss, and he was sitting outside my office. I come walk in, and I was pissed, because he really wasn't doing much. I said, "What can I do for you?" And he said, "I want to help this team win." And I said, "David, I mean, it's time's ticking, man. This I don't see it happening, but our rule. If you want to help, go start on kickoff return and make sure you learn it, and I'll give you a chance." And he not only took a chance, I mean, not only took it and ran with it, he became one of our best special teams players. And sure enough, as a result, he got to play. And when Percy Harvin got hurt um, against Florida State, we had a long discussion. And who gets a starting job? David Nelson. And he catches a touchdown pass against Alabama. And then against Oklahoma, he catches the game winner, the jump pass from Tim Tebow. That was a result of selflessness that I think that was cultural, because that's not normal. Normal behavior is selfish. It's got to be that's above the line or intentional behavior, and he learned it and obviously lived it.
Urban, I know you get a lot of conversation and questions from young coaches. It's a different world today that we're in. The whole NIL thing has changed. You still have to recruit, but you got to recruit three times as hard. You have to recruit to keep your own team as well. And you have to recruit college players from other teams, and you have to recruit high school players. I mean, you took recruiting to a new level, a new almost an art, but it's so much to do. No wonder they got 50 assistants doing it.
Yeah, I would argue a little bit that I remember the coach at Kansas basketball, Bill Self. I went there for Big Noon. We were doing football, and he came out and said hello when we started talking. He said, "You would love the recruiting nowadays." I looked at him and I go, "Really?" He said, "You don't have to call the families anymore. You're not writing letters anymore. You're not home visiting anymore. You simply find out how much it costs and you write the check." And that made my knees started to shake, like going, "What?" So I think, you know, I have friends in the business, they're signing players they don't even know. Think about what I just said. I say it's hard because you have to retain your team, but it's also all money driven. So at the end of the day, what is this school paying? Well, they're paying $1 million. Okay, I'm going to offer you 1 million too. That's much different than when you're recruiting Carlos Dunlap for a year and a half, and you wrote him probably 600 letters. you're calling them every night. Or Tim Tebow when you recruit Tebows and Jeff Demps of the world and Brandon Spikeses of the world. There was no money. It was all relationship based. So I think it was much harder back in the day than it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. Then Brendan, of course, there's DJ Lagway, who could get a lot of money to go play someplace else. And he's committed to not just playing, but recruiting other players to come and play at Florida. That's pure gold, Urban, to have a guy like that.
Yeah, every great team. We've been lucky. We have great quarterbacks the whole my entire career, and I love DJ Lagway. Everything I hear about him, obviously, you like his skill set. He struggled a little bit as a freshman, but boy, he came on, and I think Coach Napier has done a really good job with. I mean, I say good. We need to get great, and I think the end of the season showed what that young quarterback, what Coach Napier and his staff, and the leadership of that team, because. The one thing about the Gators, man, that book was written mid-season. It was over, and Gator Nation was ready to. I know there's big buyouts and all that. I don't know, the details of all that, but you tell me how they came back and they won against Ole Miss and LSU, and that team was playing really, really well at the end. You can't say that's by accident. You can't say, well, the players. No, you got to give Coach Napier a lot of credit there now. He held that thing together because a lot of times that starts to go south.
Coach, a lot of discussion in preseason last year was look at the schedule. Florida's got this crazy schedule. You look at this schedule this year, it's not that much better. In a lot of ways, it's a little bit harder in some ways. Do you, how much is that, going to matter going forward, do you think, this year? Because I think Florida, like you just said, sort of blew that whole notion away at the end of last year when they started to come on like that. And how good can they be?
When I took the Florida job, I didn't really study the schedule. If you remember, it used to be the East and West, and you had LSU as the crossover game, and they had Les Miles and great team, phenomenal teams, and then we always played Florida State. And then, by the way, let's stick Miami in there. And I was looking at these other team schedules and going, what in the hell? You look at Georgia's schedule this year and their non-conference games, I think they play 9 home, and it's so schedule, of course, has everything to do with it. But guess what? Next year, Florida's still going to have a really hard schedule. And in 2 years from now, Florida's going to have, that's pretty consistent. First of all, it's the SEC. And second of all, Florida, I think the Florida gods just always want to make them challenge them.
Yeah, on the matter of football and the Big Noon and the Big Ten, the Big Ten is kind of taking over ownership of the national championship. All of a sudden, it means that I don't know how to describe it other than the fact that the best teams in the Big Ten are more successful than the best teams in the SEC. I think the SEC has more depth, but in terms of national championships, the Big Ten owns the franchise. Is that going to hold true this year?
Boy, Penn State and Ohio State are strong. I just get to cover them quite often, and Penn State's followed the lead by the Wolverines and the Buckeyes the last 2 years, where a lot of those kids came back for their fourth year. We never really got to coach fourth-year players. They would always leave. And so there's a big difference between a veteran team. I'll say there's when you walk in a locker room and there's grown as veteran players, that's a much different animal than a bunch of freshmen and sophomore. So Penn State's there. I will say this: there's a couple ways to evaluate a conference. One is won-loss record, national championships, but the other is the NFL draft. And I did this on Colin Cowherd yesterday. Is that the Big Ten in 08-09 had 28 draft picks, 28. This past year they had 71. So when you start evaluating quality, I always thought the Big Ten had great players, but not near the depth of the SEC, not even close. That's changed. I would still say the SEC is top to bottom, a stronger conference. However, the top of the conference strength, I mean, it's people sometimes say, oh, come on, it's really easy to evaluate, buddy. You look at bowl games, national championship, and playoff performance, and the Big Ten's the best conference in college football right now.
Well, and Ohio State's not afraid to open up the coffers. I heard they're spending more money this year. Obviously that makes a difference. We get into all that NIL stuff, but how much of that is making a difference, and how close are we to having AAA ball, Coach, at some point where I feel like, it's getting kind of weird out there.
Yeah, the product on the field, Brendan's never been better. I think the coaching's never been better. The enthusiasm by the fan bases, the television coverage. It's in the playoffs. I wish that was around in our era because I think we would have had a couple more, at least close to national. I think the '09 team and certainly our 15 team would have been in that hunt, but we weren't. So, um, yes, money is the difference. And you know this, buddy, because me and you talked about this many, many times. I come from a family of education is everything. And I don't hear much about, how great a degree Florida is and the networking that you can align after graduating from a school like Florida. That was a big recruiting point of ours and it worked. And then Ohio State, life at real life Wednesdays and the preparing guys for life after football. Now it's how much are you going to pay me? And that's where I'm going. So I'm not being critical. I'm just sharing that, I I know this. I've done this for that long and I've been around a little bit. The NIL money, buddy, in case you don't know this, will eventually run out. No, you don't have when you're 28 years old, don't keep asking for NIL money. And a lot of those guys aren't going to be making enough money, generational money in the NFL. The question I have is this: are they set up for life with a nice job? Are they working? Are they supporting their family? Are their fruits of their labor being rewarded by an education from the University of Florida? And I know that sounds, oh, come on, coach, that's old school. I get it. I get it's real old school. But I think you're going to see some residual impact of the non-emphasis on the life after football.
Urban Meyer, you can catch him on Big Noon Fridays soon. You can catch him on his Triple Option podcast. Coach, how often are you doing that podcast?
We do it once a week. We're going to take, I think we have 45 weeks, so we got 1 or 2 left, and then we start up again for the season, and obviously it gets very busy. But Mark Ingram, the former Alabama Heisman Trophy winner, who I still tell him we should have our name on that trophy because his performance against us in '09 won it. But he's great. I love Mark and I love Rob Stone. We try to have a little fun with it, but we also try to enlighten people and give them angles that most other people can't.
Coach, let me get you to push your screen down just a little bit. We only got, there you go, for the final comment and final question.
I just wanted, I had just a thought there when Coach was talking. I said, wouldn't it be interesting? The unsung hero here would be academia that could come back and say, hey, our kids got to be in class. Is that, our kids got to go to school. We do this podcast every day and we don't hear about these things anymore about grades and that stuff matters. Gosh, where's that great teacher or somebody? I don't know. A professor stands up and says, no, my kid's got to go to class. You're not I don't know. Am I just being too old school, Coach?
Yeah. I mean, no, you're not. I was there during, I was still as an assistant athletic director at Ohio State during the COVID years. And, the majority of people weren't going to class. They were taking online classes. And I think that still goes on. I'm a little bit removed now. That makes my stomach hurt. I mean, that really bothers me. I'd get rid of all online classes. I'd make students go to school. I'd make them engage. I'd make them get up in the morning. But once again, it's not my problem. And I'd make, I see some schools showing their grades and their GPAs and sometimes I look at the GPAs and see how high they are. And I'm thinking, wait a minute now, I'd like to check to see if these classes are online or not.
Yeah.
Because online classes is a much different animal than you getting your butt up and going 5 minutes early to class and having, having engagement. That's what, I'll get me started on that, buddy. We can go for 4 hours. How do you teach a class without engagement? I'll fight that one and say that you can't.
Next time we get you on, we'll talk about how you had to start study hall and when you went to Bowling Green and you were really charged with academics of the whole team. That was really groundbreaking as well. Amazing. So, Coach, hope we get you back often this season. Have a
That's
great year.
the
Pleasure to
best
have
having
you
you
on.
on, Coach. You're the best.
Always great to have you. We want you to come back often down here to Gainesville, and don't forget you belong to us too as well. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just up in Ocala now, Coach. If you need anything, I'll be right there. So,
All right. Appreciate, love you guys.
thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Arvin. Appreciate it.
Gosh, he's the best. I've been jacked all morning. Got up at 5:30. So
You did.
excited
You
to
did.
listen to that today.
Yeah.
So, that's it. That's our first. Well, that's the kickoff edition, buddy.
Mhm.
Of
Holiday. Mhm.
Buddy Martin, Dad. By the way,
Yeah.
we are father and son.
Mhm.
And
I'm the dad. I'm the dad. Just so you
well,
know.
yeah, he looks younger.
Yeah, you think
And
I'd be the
slimmer.
son, but I'm not.
Well, you got that cool hat on.
Yeah.
We do a thing called GatorbaitMedia.com, by the way. You can check us out. We're Buddy Martin. You might have heard of him. He likes to write there. Check us out. Join us today. Franz Beard, Buddy Martin, Lauren Meadows, the little cast of thousands that you see here on what we're calling right now SEC.live. You can check us out there as well. Lots to happen here in the future with our podcast network, Dad. Can you believe that we've come this far with it? And this show right here, Best Fridays in Football, is going to be one of those crown jewels as long as we can get some of these great guests. And I'd like to feature some of my father's amazing career that he has had. And I'll never forget Paul Feinbaum describing about 3 months ago. So, well, I remember coming into the sports or going into the press box, and you see Buddy Martin, and he's like a titan. That's pretty tall words from a guy like Paul Feinbaum, everyone else. So, anyways, I know we're not on this time usually. In about a half hour, stick around. We're gonna have regularly scheduled program. We do these shows called SEC Sidelines with Rob Brown. Buddy, what do you have to say about the
I have a lot of things going on. I'm excited about the future. Let me just go back a final thought and say props to you, because it was you when Dan Mullen was hired at Florida, and we began to break out for our radio show and reported some hard news about what was going on with the Florida coaching situation. You insisted we go online and start broadcasting. And from that, in 2017, 2017,
Sorry.
yeah, missed a year, missed 10 years there. We
Just
started this program,
Yeah.
and it's become, as you say, a network. A lot of good shows. I'm excited about future shows we're going to do. And
we got 600 people right now just casually watching this show, Dad. We've come a long way since 2017, and we know it's all about y'all, and we're just glad to be here, and we're psyched to be a part of it. Didn't mean to jump you off there.
I just want to say props to you and how much I enjoy doing this program with you. Yeah,
remember that?
Wow, gosh, that's from 2017.
That one,
so Artifacts. And we were. Now it's the same room we started it off. Oh no!
The horn.
That.
I can't get the crown is buried amongst credentials.
Okay.
But, the dilly crown is right
behind you somewhere. There is my typewriter. My father's typewriter.
Yeah, it's right there.
Right there.
You can't. I got my new SEC 16. I got to figure out how to get that on the wall. But yeah, it's all here. All good stuff. We're gonna do this now. It's talking season. We can talk about stuff like this. There's that old. I have that airport. The airport video lives on our YouTube channel.
Well, that's amazing.
Where you can dig out, and it's a fun thing to watch. But lots of what I can't believe. It has been this long and this short amount of time. We're excited, really excited about the coming season. And we're going to have some merch, and we're going to do all the stuff. So, again, like and share us, subscribe to our podcast network on YouTube. We're going to have a couple places where you can do that. Check out sidelines.live. We're just in the process of revamping and overhauling that stuff, and we'll have more.
And we're right back to that sign. Share this right where we started.
Right. Yeah. And remember, you always got to remember to stay loyal to the kingdom.
Oh, yeah. There you go. That's right.
Loyal to the kingdom. Dilly.
There you go.
Thanks to Urban Meyer, right, Dad?
Yes,
and I'm excited about doing this show with you. We're going to do, if Urban can be on not every week, but we're going to have some other guests, and we're going to have some cool stories And hopefully we're going to be able to one day talk to you all a little bit more with some phone calls. So
That would be great to have a call-in
Hey.
show. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, thanks to Urban Meyer, and we'll be back with him on Best Fridays this fall and other prominent guests. So Brenden, thank you. Great job.
Well, thank you, Dad. And again, 30 minutes from now, come on in and check Rob Brown's SEC sidelines. The guy knows more about football than I've forgotten.
My guy, Rob. Exactly.
Our guy, Rob. There you go. My guy, Rob. I'm his producer, man.
Okay.
He's my guy. I'm just trying to get on his coattails. So
I'm the dad of the producer. Okay.
yeah, you're the godfather. He's my dad. I'm his son. He's Buddy. I'm Brenden. We're the Martin Boys. Thanks for joining us on the best Fridays in football.
Wahoo.
Right here on SEC.live.